Hello everybody and welcome to the fourth part of What If Naruto Learned of His Heritage Early. I hope you enjoy this What If. Also don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest episodes. 7th Legacy, You're Our Pride. Now, Naruto, wipe your tears. The shinobi in front of you is going to leave with pride. He protected you till the very end. We should be proud of him. Uchiha Shisui to Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto didn't care about the hole in his hand or the resulting sharp pain, both were the farthest thing from his mind. He had been careless, and his friends had paid the price. He should have realized how odd it was for Aizen to knock Hinamori out by holding the back of her neck, or paid attention to the scruff of her neck when she was laying down. He did neither, and now Hinamori had nailed his hand to the wooden surface with her katana. The price he paid for his carelessness. Naruto ignored the pain as he pulled the katana out of his hand, spilling his blood all over the seal array. Hinamori paid him no mind as she strode to her master who looked dead, but could he survive that? His breath hitched when he saw the seal array on the back of Hinamori's neck, a crudely made mind control seal. What the hell was Aizen thinking? One of the most obscure type of seals were the ones that dealt with the mind. Using the kind of seal recklessly would destroy someone's mind. His blood ran cold at the thought of the seal having been planted a long time ago. Hinamori had been with Aizen for years, her mind was probably. The sound of metal hitting wood alerted him to Itachi and Shisui pulling Aizen's weapons out of themselves. Faint smoke was coming off of both weapons from the fire jutsus used to destroy the seal arrays carved into them. A wise move, he decided. Naruto winced when he felt the wound on his hand closing rapidly. He'd never had a wound this deep before, so the experience of his muscle tissue being pulled and mended by Kurama's demonic chakra was foreign and slightly painful. Naruto-kun, Itachi's calm voice alerted him to the ANBU's presence by his side. Are you all right? The Jinchuriki nodded, watching from the corner of his eyes pulling Aizen's weapons out of themselves. Faint smoke was coming. Someone would have tried to approach her and knock her out, but what she held made them pause. In one hand, she was holding one of Aizen's kunai with a lightning element seal, and in the other was the dreaded treasure. Stepping anywhere near the water's surface was a suicidal move, and although they were physically superior compared to Hinamori, it would be too dangerous to confront her. They knew that a mind-controlled human, like her, could do the unthinkable with little regard to themselves and their surroundings. Taishu, could we use the wall to get to her? Kuma asked Tori warily. Torai turned to the Uchihas and said, Itachi, Shisui, can you see if anything's in the wall? If there's another seal trap there it could be a dead end. Itachi and Shisui nodded, pushing more chakra into their eyes to see better in the dimly lit room. I can see some traces of chakra. Shisui gulped at the sight and what it implied. This is bad. The Uchiha Scion nodded, how could we miss this? He gritted his teeth, his Sharingan spinning furiously. The wall is a landmine. If they had noticed earlier, they wouldn't have even dared to touch the wall. And to think, all of this was a defense mechanism made by Uzumaki Mido. The warning of, don't touch the seal, was never voiced, but it didn't need be. The Uzumaki clan was notorious for their use of seals as traps. Naruto coughed, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. Because this giant seal array activated, he breathed out, the defense mechanism that's been dormant for so long has been revived by my chakra. But, Aizen and Hinamori have been here before, so they probably know how to deactivate it. Though Hinamori had probably not been aware of Aizen's malicious intent towards the seal. Naruto gritted his teeth, it's designed to annihilate intruders if they manage to reach the treasure, but it's backfired in our case, because they know how to control it while we don't. Aizen's hoarse laughter rang throughout the room. How perceptive, Naruto-kun. Ha ha ha, as expected of an Uzumaki. The younger seal master scowled. Aizen. Shisui snarled. How the hell are you still alive after that attack? Aizen tilted his head to the side as he stood up to his full height. On his chest was an ugly burn scar, though it wasn't a life-threatening injury. It's a simple trick any seal master with mediocre knowledge of medical ninjutsu could achieve. He revealed. It ate more than half my chakra, though. Aren't you cocky? Torai drawled. Revealing your secrets is foolish. Though that can be easily rectified with this treasure, Aizen stated as glanced at Hinamori, who held the treasure close to her chest. Now, Hinamori, give me the treasure. Naruto tried to move, but Itachi stopped him. You, of all people, should know it's unwise to attack Aizen blindly, the Uchiha scion muttered stoically. Don't. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw Hinamori force the purple orb into Aizen's burned chest. Is he crazy? He's trying to consume that foul chakra. I once knew a foolish pair of brothers who did the same, Kurama informed with a growl. Aizen will either grow stronger or die because of chakra intoxication. I see. Naruto gritted his teeth, but will he be able to control that power? Kurama cackled, who knows? Either way he'll find out. Is that so? Naruto cut his mental conversation short, ignoring Kurama's indignant rambling about his ungrateful Jinchuriki. Whether or not what Kurama said was true, it was still just a prediction. Meanwhile, Aizen had become quiet as his eyes started to glow an eerie purple. He strolled leisurely in their direction with a smirk on his face. Naruto didn't like this sudden confidence Aizen had gained with stepping into the tree stump, the only trap-free area. After all, he was the one with a severe disadvantage as far as the number of allies went. What are? Naruto's eyes widened when Aizen vanished from his sight. The next thing he knew, the ANBU members who stood beside Itachi fell to the ground in bloody messes, and said Uchiha was blocking Aizen's bloody hand with his ninjato. Itachi winced. What power? He could see Aizen's every move with his Sharingan-enhanced eyes, but his body couldn't react in time. With just brute strength, the man was pushing him back. Shisui growled, when did he? The Shunshin expert vanished and reappeared next to the traitor and swung his ninjato, but was greeted by air. Warg. The sickening sound of crushed ribs echoed as the ANBU with a bear mask was slammed into the ground. Torai backed away, suppressing his anger about the death of his subordinates as his hands ran through a series of seals. Suten, Suigaten, water release, water fong bullet. A torrent of water rose up and spun like a drill, barreling towards man in question. Just smiled as he cut through the drill of water with his bare hands. Is that it? Shisui scowled. In just the blink of an eye, they were down to 4 shinobi, Naruto excluded. Shisui glanced at the blonde, immediately knowing by the way he wobbled on his feet that he was far from okay. The Uchiha could understand though, it was common for most children to be exhausted when they activated their bloodline for the first time. Shisui's attention was drawn to Itachi as he sheathed his ninjato, and his eyes widened when he saw the large crack on the sword. Itachi appeared calm, but Shisui could tell his cousin was running a number of strategies through his mind. How strong is this bastard? Shisui asked with a grimace at the broken ninjato. He's strong enough to tear us apart with his bare hands, Itachi answered calmly. Do not engage him directly. Naruto winced. It seemed Aizen was nowhere near dying of chakra poisoning. Itachi. Shisui. He called, Aizen is absorbing the foul chakra of that orb, and even though his chakra, power, and speed has increased exponentially, he's not infallible, and he's not supposed to be able to control this power too quickly. He coughed again before he took a deep breath. Please stall him to give me more time. I have a plan. Itachi nodded as his right hand pulled a wire from his weapons pouch. I'm going first. Torai and his remaining subordinate, Nezumi, dodged another torrent of lighting attacks in their limited amount of space. Itachi was right. Save for the tree stump, the whole area was a landmine for them. Torai somersaulted and landed right on the edge of the wooden surface. From the corner of his eyes, he saw Itachi land in between him and Nezumi. Itachi. Taishu, Itachi began, let's focus on immobilizing this man, while we stall for time. We must try to keep him inside this giant seal array as long as we can. Nezumi turned to the Uchiha prodigy. What do you mean? Torai ended the conversation with, talk later, he's coming. Naruto knelt on the wooden surface, his fingers tracing the center of the giant seal array. Shisui was beside him looking worried. Naruto ignored the weary state his mind and body were in as he tried to focus. His chakra pool was nearly empty, and he knew he didn't have enough to accomplish the required tasks. He could call out Kurama's energy, but what he needed was Uzumaki chakra, not Kurama's demonic one. It was frustrating being so useless and weak when he had a role to fulfill in this battle. Failure just wasn't an option. He had already lost 2 of the ANBU guards who'd protected him for years, and he wasn't going to lose any more of his friends. He drew his legs into lotus position, his fingers forming a ram seal. It would help to recover his chakra a bit faster. Naruto, the young seal master, frowned. "Brace yourself," Shisui murmured, a grim expression painted on his face. "It seems a lady is joining our party." Naruto grimaced at the bun-haired girl who walked towards them, her katana glimmering in the dim light. "Hinamori ne," he hissed. "Shisui, try to immobilize her, she has no sense of self-preservation as she is now." Which meant it was the same as fighting someone who was ready to die, and in Shisui's book, that was always a bad idea. If you engage with this kind recklessly, you would end up dying with them. Understood. As soon as the word left his mouth, Hinamori charged at Shisui, and though the Shunshin expert dodged the attack easily, he was displeased by the implications of the first attack. Naruto was right about the "no sense of self-preservation" part. This girl had charged at him with all her power when there were so many other openings. His Sharingan spun wildly as he tried to trap her in a genjutsu, but nothing happened. Maybe the seal blocked genjutsu attacks or something. Shisui dodged another sloppy attack. "Che," he grunted. From the way she attacked, Shisui could tell she wanted him to attack her, and he could only imagine how splendidly that would end, especially if the seal on her katana was the same as Aizen's. Lightning-natured chakra was second only to wind when it came to versatility, so touching a weapon with that kind of seal was a suicide. Fortunately for Shisui, he also had a trick on his weapon. "I have lightning chakra, too, Oji-chan." Shisui grinned as his weapon clashed with Hinamori's. The petite girl's face remained stoic as she exchanged blow after blow with Shisui, but it was obvious she wasn't faring well. Shisui could tell she was not used to using one katana, because she was a twin sword user. A person under mind control, like her, hadn't thought ahead, so she hadn't bothered to regain possession of the katana she'd used on Naruto earlier. The blonde boy silently watched Shisui and Hinamori from the corner of his eyes, and it seemed Shisui was doing well. He was still low on chakra, so he could only hope they could buy him more time. His blue eyes then glanced at the other battle that was not going well. At some point, some sort of wing made of ominous, purple chakra had erupted from Aizen's back, making him look decidedly less human. Some sort of strange, black pattern was spreading over his skin, and even a non-sensor could feel the unnatural chakra practically radiating from him. What the hell had that orb done to Aizen? It was a 3-against-1 battle, and though they were ANBU, they could barely hold their ground against him. In fact, Aizen was just toying with them, biding his time and savoring his moment of superiority. The lack of land for their battleground didn't help either, especially since they wanted to keep their distance and stick to mid to long range attacks. Itachi was thinking along the same lines as Naruto. Whatever was happening to Aizen would have undesirable outcome for them. While they pondered over their next course of action, Tori broke the silence, his normally reserved voice sounding unsure because of the weird markings marring Aizen's skin. "You're one of that bastard's experiments," he growled out murderously. "Torai Taishu." Itachi glanced at the man, he'd never seen his captain look so perturbed. Aizen laughed because, unlike them, he knew what Tori was referring to. "Oh, Orochimaru-san." The amount of politeness used to address the most dangerous missing nin Konoha had ever produced didn't sit well with them. "Do I look like someone who does his bidding?" he asked in a mocking tone, faking an indignant expression. "I'm not one of those fake dolls he created," Aizen muttered, and for a moment, the false, genial smile he always donned returned to his face. "I'm an original carrier of this blessing." At this point, the marks covered over half of his body. "Blessing," Torai repeated, his ninjato pointed at the traitor. "It's a curse that feeds on power-hungry men like you." Aizen scoffed, then he let out a maniacal laughter at Tori's insult. "Maybe to those copies," he grinned, "charging the ANBU, but not for me." Torai hissed as he blocked Aizen's kick with his arm guard. It shattered in an instant and he could feel his bones screaming in protest under the immense pressure. Itachi and Nezumi didn't stay idle, they both raised their respective weapons and dealt a blow to the man's vital points. Clank! Nozomi gasped as his ninjato snapped in two instead of piercing Aizen's spinal column. Itachi's kunai also broke. The ANBU knew in an instant that engaging Aizen in close range, even with 3 against 1, was dangerous. They all jumped away from the traitor, but Nozomi was not lucky enough to escape as Aizen turned and caught him by his throat. Nozomi tried to break free, but Aizen had an iron-like grip on his throat, cutting off his air supply. "Before I kill you all," Aizen began with a sneer, "I think it would be fair to indulge the reason of why I did this." Naruto never thought he would thank God for the dreaded monologue every cocky villain did to reveal their plans. Madara's bad habit, the dreaded monologue. "It's working to my advantage, so let him," Naruto muttered to Kurama. "Besides, it's a sign he's getting overconfident, and that's good news for us." Nozomi was caught, but Tori wouldn't let his subordinate die without trying to save him. "Just concentrate on recovering your chakra," Kurama hissed coolly. "Your chakra coils are in a bad shape after that last stunt you pulled. You weren't ready for that." Chakra coils were the pathways of chakra circulation, so if the coils were undeveloped like Naruto's, or any child's, it didn't matter if a shinobi had a lot of chakra available. Extreme use of chakra resulted in the wear of these coils, because they weren't ready for the strain, which could lead to the inability to use chakra later. "I'm healing them now, so hopefully they'll be in good enough condition for your plan, but I got to warn you, it's going to hurt like a bitch later." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the warning. "That's the least of my concerns." "Naruto-kun," Aizen called the Jinchuriki in his fake, genial voice, just like how he used to. It snapped Naruto's attention back to his former mentor and made him want to hurl. "You may loathe your Jinchuriki status, but there was once a clan who willingly became demon vessels." The Kyuubi Jinchuriki glared at the traitor. "A clan of fools then," he hissed testily. "Fools," Aizen echoed, slamming Nozomi into the hard, wooden surface. The ANBU was still breathing, but the sickening cracks they heard definitely indicated broken ribs. Aizen moved away from his latest victim, and Tori glared at the man as he checked on Nozomi. Aizen laughed. "My clan was the greatest. We were the next step in human evolution," he boasted proudly. "More like disgraces to humanity," Naruto thought furiously. "I hardly believe that." Naruto didn't even bat an eye when Itachi landed next to him. The Uchiha probably knew that Naruto was baiting Aizen to keep him talking, but probably wasn't willing to risk the man's wrath coming out. A dull thud not far from Naruto made the boy briefly glance in Shisui's direction. Hinamori was once again out cold. Shisui had tied her up with a rope for safety measures and confiscated her weapons pouch and scrolls. He even used the confining seal Naruto gave him. The traitor looked at his former student disapprovingly. "We were, in fact, better than Jinchuriki like you," he drawled haughtily, looking at Naruto condescendingly. "Unlike you, we contained demons in our body with no seals. They became a part of us, and we were in control of their power. It gave us vitality and longevity superior to lesser humans." Naruto was pretty sure no Jinchuriki, especially himself, would want to be compared to an abomination like Aizen. The man was just so proud of being able to abuse the power that came with being less human. "So your clan bred with lesser demons?" Kurama had once told him that the Bijou were not the only demons around, and that lesser demons did exist and could breed with humans to produce half-demon spawn. The Uzumaki family was originally a clan of Onmyoji that exorcised demons who threatened humanity, and the Rokudo Sennin had also been one before he created the shinobi profession. Aizen looked like he'd been slapped across the face. "As if. We took the power of the demons we sealed and implanted it into our bodies," he informed, placing his hand above his heart as a sneer marred his face. All of his skin had turned to a sickly shade of purple, and the butterfly-like wings made of chakra had fully extended out of his back. His appearance was decidedly bestial, and his chakra only grew fouler with each passing moment. The blonde Jinchuriki felt his heartbeat become more erratic, and he felt restless. "It's nothing. Uzumakis are pretty sensitive to demon chakra. Your body is alert, that's all. If anything, this will speed up your recovery rate because your body instinctively knows there's a threat." Naruto guessed that had something to do with the Uzumaki's profession prior to the shinobi age. "Your Uchiha friends, however." Kyuubi redirected the Jinchuriki's attention toward the cousins. "Ugh." Itachi and Shisui suddenly hurled and threw up the contents of their stomach. The Uchiha scion coughed as he struggled to regain control of his body. What's happened? Itachi hissed. Shisui cradled his head. I'm getting dizzy. Itachi. Shisui. Naruto called out to them, are you all right? Kyuubi scoffed, they're the descendants of the Rokudo Sennin, so they're pretty sensitive, too. Normally, they wouldn't have reacted this badly to this kind of demonic chakra, but... He trailed off, mixing poison could produce a more lethal one, it's something like that. Aizen bastard have foul chakra since the very beginning, but he absorbed another kind of nasty chakra which no good for your senses or the Uchihas. Great, it's an enemy that makes us want to puke literally, Naruto muttered under his breath, feeling his stomach twist unpleasantly. Just a bit more, please make it in time. Aizen looked unperturbed by their speculations of him and their reactions to his transformation. The sclera of his eyes turned black while the irises became yellow. He also gained a black stripe running from the middle of his forehead down to the bridge of his nose, and his skin's texture became tough and jagged like a rock. I can think clearly. He murmured, revealing his voice had become deeper and hoarse. I like it. Shisui and Itachi wiped their mouths, neither looking happy to be reduced to their current state. Itachi, Shisui. Naruto called their attention to him, don't worry about the sudden nausea, it'll wear off fast. He wheezed out. Don't think to fight him head on, just keep him distracted from me and stay alive. Got it. Shisui grinned then said to Itachi, ready. Itachi scoffed, whenever you are. They jumped away from Naruto and landed on the opposite side of Aizen. Their enemy looked unconcerned, taking his time to marvel about his new power. Katan, Kukaku no Jutsu. Aizen batted away the incoming fireball with his bare hands, much to their ire. Shisui gritted his teeth when Aizen appeared in a flash, leaving the Shunshin expert barely any time to defend with his lightning-coated ninjato. Shisui knew if not for the coating on his ninjato, he would have met the same fate as Itachi's ANBU teammates. His eyes widened when a crack appeared on his ninjato from Aizen's force. He tried to move away, but Aizen was too strong, so he was locked in the clash. Itachi, though, came to his rescue, throwing a barrage of kunai with explosion tags. The blast didn't deal any meaningful damage to Aizen, but it allowed Shisui a safe retreat. Thank you, Itachi. Shisui grinned at his cousin as he jumped away, then cringed when he saw his broken ninjato. Shit. Next time he'd have to bring a spare, he noted mentally. Aizen was not pleased with Itachi's interference and decided to give the boy a taste of his own medicine. Aizen grew jet booster-like appendages on his arms, extended them and gathered chakra. He formed a huge and powerful chakra blast that Itachi barely dodged in time with a Shunshin. Itachi reappeared beside Shisui as they surveyed the damage left by the chakra blast Aizen unleashed. Itachi's expression was grim. That attack, if it had hit. Shisui gulped, it's unlikely you'd have survived that. The wall Aizen hit with that chakra blast had a half-sphere-shaped hole and the water surface was split like the Red Sea before it crashed back together. They had no time to talk as Aizen went after them again, and the battle continued by exchanging elemental ninjutsu attacks, because going anywhere near Aizen was too risky. Torai protected them all with earth element shields, but they only lasted long enough to give them a chance to catch their breath. The ANBU captain knew their chakra was running low and that they were on their last leg. Meanwhile, Nezumi was having difficulty breathing because of the earlier attack that broke his ribs, and he knew a broken bone had punctured his lungs. So while Shisui and Itachi distracted Aizen with another barrage of fireballs, Nezumi pulled his captain aside to explain his plan. I have a plan, but it will cost me. Nezumi gritted out. Torai protested, but... Captain. Listen, we can't fail Naruto again, not again. Nezumi reminded. Torai was reluctant at first but eventually gave in as neither of them were much use as they were. Torai had taken a beating on his left leg from Aizen, and it was useless now. They looked at their junior teammate then to Naruto, who was still recovering. It was now or never. Torai cut Aizen's path off with another water element attack that pushed the deformed human back a few feet. Like all previous attacks, it did minimal damage but caused Aizen to direct his vengeance onto the ones who attacked him. Torai knew that would happen because, despite all of Aizen's boasting of brilliance, he had a pretty simple mind when it came to the battlefield. However, Aizen never got to his target as another ANBU moved to block his path. Got you. Nezumi grinned when he caught Aizen's fist with his hands, ignoring the cracking noise his arms made. He shifted his body when another fist moved to smash him, but this time Aizen's fist pierced his stomach. Ugh. Nezumi grunted in pain. Thank you for holding me back, just like I wanted. Nezumi. Naruto shouted in horror. His chakra was almost full, he could feel it. Nezumi wished he could take off his mask, so he could show Naruto a smile in his dying moments. I'm sorry, Naruto, but at least I protected you till the very end. He laughed softly, then turned to Aizen. As for you, embrace the earth, bastard. Doton, Ganban Q, earth release, bedrock coffin. A mud-like substance flowed from his mouth, forming a rocky ground under his feet. Then, two gigantic rocks rose and crashed into its user and Aizen. Nezumi. Naruto stared at the rock coffin, his eyes widening when he saw a tiny crack on its surface. Naruto, concentrate. That bastard's still alive. Do it now while he's still trapped there. Kurama warned his vessel. And get your friends away from that coffin. Itachi. Shisui. Torai. Naruto shouted desperately, he's still alive. Get away from there. As the three shinobi heeded his warning, Naruto began to pull his chakra chain out of his body. Ugh! He nearly screamed when pain racked his body. It felt like an unclosed wound was grating against sandpaper. Kurama was right about his chakra coils, but he needed to focus and ignore the pain. Once again, the chain shot out and traced the seal carved on the wooden surface, but the chakra drain was even more rapid than last time, and Naruto felt his consciousness slipping away. Aizen's head and hand holding his katana suddenly broke through the coffin, but the rest of his body remained buried. No. I'm not going to end here. My clan shall be avenged. Lesser humans will pay, he roared at the three shinobi before turning his attention to Naruto. Die, Jinchuriki. Aizen threw his katana at the defenseless blonde. Naruto-kun. Itachi moved as fast as he could, but he knew he wouldn't be able to stop the sword. His eyes widened when he saw someone was already there to block the sword. Torai Taishu. Naruto saw the incoming projectile with half-lidded eyes. He couldn't move, then his vision was suddenly painted with blood, and something warm was soaking his cheek. Hey, are you all right, Naruto? The Jinchuriki stared at the mask of a bird that fell on his lap, then looked to the katana that pierced the ANBU's chest and the unmasked face. Torai. Torai smiled at the boy he had protected for years. Don't worry about me, he coughed out. Seal him now, Naruto. Naruto nodded, tears streaming down his face as he answered, yes. The chain moved at a slower pace as Naruto pushed his remaining chakra into forming the seal. Aizen struggled to break free, but since the seal was nearly complete, he couldn't. Die. You should all die. Hinamori Thai. Kill them. Shisui's eyes widened when he saw Hinamori had regained consciousness while they were distracted. Her rope bindings had been cut off with the katana she'd pinned Naruto with earlier, but luckily the seal on her still remained intact. Shisui and Itachi quickly moved to block Hinamori, who had stood up on her master's command, and much to their shock, she was trying to break free of the binding seal with brute strength. Shisui gritted his teeth as he raised his kunai. Hey, stop that. Moments later she was released, and her whole body was marred by cuts all over as a result. Shisui cursed, he didn't have enough chakra to use his lightning release, and Itachi wasn't faring any better. His remaining chakra was being used to just keep himself standing. Hinamori-san, come back to your senses, you don't want this. Itachi hissed as he helped his ANBU captain to sit. It was painful seeing the life slipping away, and it reminded him so much of the war. Hinamori. Aizen roared desperately, move. Kill Naruto. Naruto turned to Hinamori, who had stopped her advance, and watched as her eyes shifted from lifeless to normal, back and forth. She was struggling to break free of the control seal. Fight back, Hinamori Nizen. Fight it. Hinamori suddenly fell on her knees, raising her katana, but instead of attacking Itachi and Shisui, she stabbed her right hand through to the ground. Her eyes were normal as tears streamed down her face. I don't want to hurt anyone, she stammered as blood dyed the ground red. Little brother, my dear brother. She looked at Naruto with a smile on her face. I'm sorry, so sorry, Nei-san can't protect you, hurt you. Hinamori Nizan. Naruto called out to her, but she fell to the ground, her eyes closed as she slipped back into unconsciousness. She was still alive, but that breakdown just now, her mind, it was. Aizen. Naruto hissed furiously as he felt his chakra chains trace over the last stroke of the seal. Go back to where you belong. Hands made of wood grew out of the seal array and pulled Aizen out of the earth coffin. Nozumi's body fell to the ground as the wooden hands trapped Aizen in their grip. No. No. Aizen roared hysterically, let me go. His skin reverted back to normal and the transformation slipped away. His eyes widened in horror when he realized the wood chakra the Shodaime left was purifying his power. You will pay. You will pay, Jinchuriki. One day, my clan will rise again, he roared as half of his body sunk into the wood. We're the chosen humans. We will rise again. Ha 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 ha. Naruto shook his head. No, you won't. He hissed, I won't let you, ever. Naruto formed a ram seal, his breathing ragged as he shouted. Fuin. And with that, Aizen was dragged down into the seal with not a trace left of him. A spell of silence hung in the air as they all stared at the smooth surface of wood where the traitor previously was. It's over, Shisui whispered. Itachi looked at Naruto, then to his captain. Naruto-kun. Naruto turned his attention to Itachi, his expression grim as he looked at Tori. The ANBU captain's chakra was so weak, he was dying. Tori. Naruto stood up slowly, limping over to Itachi and Tori. The ANBU captain was laughing softly. His damp, brown hair was askew, and he was looking at Naruto with half-lidded green eyes. Heh. The katana was still embedded in his chest, and though his bleeding didn't show any signs of stopping, it had staved off death long enough to say goodbye. It wasn't much time, but he could say what he wanted at least. I'm so sorry. Naruto muttered, tears streaming down his face. Because of me. Tori grinned at Naruto as his hand rose to cup the boy's whiskered cheek. Don't cry, it's not your fault. My team and I chose to protect you with our lives, so as a shinobi and your protector we're content. Naruto sobbed and stammered, but, if only I was stronger, if only. I was a better shinobi and Jinchuriki, you wouldn't. Tori shook his head. Naruto, not once did my team or I see our duty as protecting the Jinchuriki of Konoha, he muttered in a pained voice. We protected you, because, we love you. You love me? Naruto asked in a daze. It was not out of duty but genuine love. The ANBU captain nodded. We always have. If anything. I'm the one who should be asking for forgiveness, he coughed, his smile looking pained. That night, when you were born, my team was one of the ANBU squads assigned to protect your parents. We failed, even though we're the first line of defense, and before we knew it other team had been killed and Yondaime had to seal Kyubi. His team had survived since they were guarding the farthest area from the cave. They hadn't even known they were under attack until Kyubi appeared. Tori's eyes closed briefly as he recalled the other dead squads, the picture of tragedy from 8 years ago. Tori, what happened isn't your fault. Naruto stammered sadly. Tori shook his head, we couldn't protect the Yondaime and Kushina-sama, not when we found him sealing the Kyubi into you, and not even as they spoke to you with their dying breaths, Tori said in a broken voice. You had your parents for a few miserable minutes, and then you were scorned by those you sacrificed your life for. We watched this and wished we could have eased your pain, but... Naruto sobbed as he grasped the gentle hand on his cheek. I was happy though, because you were always there for me. I can't thank you and your team enough. Tori's dark green eyes widened, a small smile painted on his lips. Thank you. He muttered in a hushed whisper. Now, I understand your parents' feelings, at least a little. I wish I could protect you longer, but... His voice was hoarse as he glanced at the Uchihas. Itachi, this is my last order as your captain. Itachi nodded. Yes, I'll protect. Torai cut him off with, "No, what I want you to do is to be Naruto's comrade, not a protector in the shadows like us. We were able to protect him from physical harm, but we could never protect his heart," he stated regretfully. "We let those vengeful villagers to scorn him, and we could do nothing. I want you to be by his side as a comrade, you and your cousin, please." "Yes." Torai Itachi said in a hushed whisper. "I promise." Shisui nodded, "Me too." He grinned as he dragged the dazed Naruto into his arms. "Now, Naruto, wipe your tears," he said as he helped the boy to do so. He could hear his voice was shaking. "The shinobi in front of you is going to leave with pride. He protected you till the very end. We should be proud of him." Torai grinned. "That's right, so, Naruto, smile," he requested hoarsely. "It's been a while since I saw your real smile." Naruto nodded, his lips curving up as he gave the ANBU his foxy grin. "Like this?" He nodded, "Yes, thank you, Naruto, for everything," he muttered as he closed his green eyes slowly and welcomed his death. He had no regrets. When he reunited with his teams, he would congratulate them for a job well done. They had protected Naruto until the very end. Then, he would see the Yondaime and Kushina-sama and tell them their boy had grown to be a hero. Naruto awoke to the irritatingly familiar smell of antiseptics. The smell came with being confined to the hospital, aka prison. However, this time it was not as bad as usual, because when he saw Takusa and his master, Hakurei, sitting beside his bed and looking at him with identical expressions of worry. Hakurei was the leader of the Shiomitsu clan and was as old as the Sandaime. He wore a white kimono with dark blue lining and a dark maroon scarf, and his white hair was styled in a high ponytail. He sat up with a dazed feeling. It took a few moments for him to register them asking about his condition, and tears began welling up as he recalled what happened in that underground chamber. It didn't take long to recover his bearings. He had to be coherent to demand the Shiomitsu pair tell him what happened afterwards. Naruto had apparently passed out yesterday because of severe chakra exhaustion. Itachi and Shisui had also suffered from chakra exhaustion and a couple of bruises and cuts. Overall, there was nothing to worry about with the Uchiha cousins, as they only needed a few days of rest. Hakurei promised he would bring him to visit the Uchihas, whose room was in a completely different wing of the hospital. Hakurei was extremely careful in the wording of his report about how they were separated as precaution. Naruto couldn't help but growl at that, but he couldn't fault the logic. The Uchiha family was trying to stave off accusations of them trying to influence Naruto to their supposed cause, or whatever ludicrous ideas people had, which got pretty ridiculous in Naruto's opinion. Then, Hakurei asked him if he was all right to hear more about his recently dead ex-mentor. Naruto assured them he had never trusted Aizen, had even noticed the man's power-hungry eyes on him since the very beginning. He was also pretty angry with Shiomitsu, since they had been at odds with Aizen but had never explained the reason for the animosity. He had been led to believe it was a simple political struggle between the two. Hakurei and Takusa apologized and would have bowed deeply if he had not stopped them. He just wanted them to be honest with him. After Hakurei asked Takusa to guard the door from outside, he applied a privacy seal on the room. Then, Hakurei began his story about Aizen Sasuke and how the man was welcomed into their ranks. It was 25 years ago, right before the Second Shinobi World War reached its end. Hakurei began solemnly. Uchiha had just fallen, so Konoha was desperate to find the survivors. One of the few clans they managed to find was the Shiomitsu clan. He looked at Naruto sadly. "We're a clan who serves under the main family of Uzumaki, Mito-sama's, and your family line." Naruto nodded. He could guess that much from how they treated him. "But what's any of that got to do with Aizen?" he asked impatiently. "I'm getting to that, Naruto-sama," Hakurei said patiently. The problem was, at that time, all records of Uchiha inhabitants was lost, and Konoha didn't know any better, so a clan used that to their advantage to join Konoha's ranks, claiming they were a small clan from our fallen homeland. Hakurei's expression was pained as he continued his story, but Naruto needed to know. That clan was Aizen's. So they lied? Naruto asked incredulously. "But if you worked as my family's vassal, how could they deceive Konoha? You should have known they weren't a part of Uchiha. No one really cared at that time." Hakurei gritted his teeth as he explained that since Uchiha's records were lost, it was impossible to prove the family was not from their fallen homeland. Not to mention, like many families of Uzushio, the Aizen clan showed prowess in Fuinjutsu and nothing much in any other field. The clan members were malnourished and weak. They acted like a clan of genial scholars like Aizen Sasuke, so when they begged on their knees for place in Konoha, the Sandaime could not deny them. Hakurei took a deep breath, but still. Konoha didn't really trust them, so they were placed on the outskirts of Konoha. He looked down, they were surprisingly content with that arrangement. Hakurei gritted his teeth, but then, their clan members died out one by one in a short period of time. A clan the size of 10 families was suddenly reduced to 3 families in 2 years. The clan was very tight-lipped about it, and while the rest of Konoha was not affected, Sandaime couldn't just turn a blind eye. Naruto could guess what Sandaime did next. The clan was put on heavy surveillance by ANBU. So what did they find? Hakurei shook slightly as he recalled the horror he witnessed 2 decades ago. Experimentation that involved Fuinjutsu, lesser demons, and genetic manipulation, a cursed branch of study called Juinjutsu, he muttered with a disgusted face, which they inflicted on their own kin. That was the last straw. The Sandaime ordered his shinobi to capture the clan members. My clan was ordered by Mito-sama to assist in the raid. He continued with a grieving voice, we were just going to arrest them, but it turned into a massacre when the Aizens turned into monsters and attacked our forces. Monsters. Naruto murmured, like he did. Hakurei nodded. The mild-mannered clan turned into bloodthirsty monsters in one night, and we had no choice but to kill them all, and after we dealt with the adults, we searched for their children, hoping that they had survived. The old man gritted his teeth. But what we found were 5 dead children, ranging from the ages of 5 to 10 years old, all dead, inside a wooden coffin. Hakurei rubbed his temple as he continued his story. Or at least my brother and I thought they were, we checked their pulse and everything, he explained with a pained voice. Then, suddenly what we thought was a miracle happened, the oldest of the 5 children, Aizen Sasuke, started to breathe again. Naruto's eyes widened, he survived. We let our guard down, the Shiomitsu muttered sadly. We thought it was a miracle. We checked the boy into the hospital and found he was normal, except for the weird enzyme in his body, it was dormant so we thought nothing about it. My brother was a kind man, he felt responsible for Aizen Sasuke so he adopted and raised the child as his own. Hakurei shook his head, it wasn't until Sagetsu passed away 7 years ago that we started to suspect Aizen. Aizen Sasuke had been adopted into the Shiomitsu clan and raised by the previous division leader, Shiomitsu Sagetsu. The distrust for Aizen had started to form when the surrogate father had suddenly fallen ill and passed away. At first it was grief that made the Shiomitsu clan want to blame someone, even to the point of Hakurei being paranoid enough to dig up his brother's grave to perform an autopsy of the body. Hakurei was very enraged by what he found. In his brother's body was the same enzyme found dormant in Aizen's body years ago, and it had killed his brother slowly. However, that evidence was invalid due to the lack of proof and knowledge of how the enzyme could invade Senjutsu's body. In the end, the case was closed, and it was concluded that his brother was poisoned with a slow-acting serum during the massacre. There was nothing Hakurei could do to refute that possibility. Aizen Sasuke, on the other hand, took that chance to act as the tragic adopted son Sangetsu left. Sasuke accused them of slandering his name so Hakurei could take his late brother's position, and the split of power in Seal Tower was inevitable, half went to Aizen and another half to the Shiomitsus. In the end, Sandaime brought up Sagetsu's will, one that, until today, couldn't be confirmed as false or legitimate. So Sasuke was chosen to be the next leader, and he discarded the Shiomitsu surname he took up when Sangetsu adopted him, claiming it disgusted him to shoulder the same surname as Hakurei. Their clan could only swallow bitterly as they lived under the rule of the traitor, and it was only when Naruto had come to their tower that they saw a chance to overthrow Aizen. Unfortunately, Aizen saw a different kind of chance in Naruto. He wanted to use the Uzumaki to unlock the cursed treasure Shodaima and Uzumaki Mito sealed. The treasure was a legacy that was left behind by a fallen village called Hoshigakure, a meteor that granted immense power. The treasure emitted a foul chakra and was very dangerous, which was why the Shodaime and his wife sealed it in the depths of their tower. The only reason they hadn't destroyed it was because the Shodaime was unsure of the consequences destroying it would cause. Hakurei suspected the Aizen clan originally hailed from the fallen Hoshigakure and had records of the secret treasure, which was why Sasuke wanted its power. In their cursed form, the Aizen clan lost themselves in the power, but the treasure could help them to retain their senses. Aizen was bitter about the death of his clan, so he planned to perfect his cursed seal and avenge his fallen clan. So that's why. Naruto gritted his teeth, he wanted to avenge his clan. Shiomitsu Hakurei nodded. Yes, Naruto-sama, a fool's revenge. While I was angered by Aizen's actions until now, I still can't comprehend why that boy wanted to avenge his clan, a clan that had fallen so far for power, to the point they had sacrificed their children. Or maybe the Aizen clan, from the very beginning, had always had a twisted sense of love. Hakurei had to berate himself and his brother for not noticing that. Sasuke, as a child, had always childishly claimed his late parents loved him so much. For Aizens, the gift of power was probably proof of their parental love. They were all broken humans, scorned for their tradition, and instead of fixing their error, they strived to fall deeper. Naruto shook his head, that man is dead. For some reason, he felt unease when he declared someone's death, his first kill. What about Hinamori? She has been with Aizen for so long. You examined the mind control seal on her right. Hakurei nodded. Is there any chance for her to recover? Hakurei stiffened at that. She's asleep now, but when she awoke for a few minutes yesterday, that poor girl, she asked where her little brother was. She was calm, very calm, then suddenly, she cried and begged for her brother to forgive her. Hinamori was a war orphan, her village having been destroyed in war. Hakurei didn't know the details, but apparently her little brother had been very sick, and Hinamori had nursed him for days while their parents worked in the field. She'd gotten bored watching him and had decided to play with her friends, so she left her sleeping brother to play for a while with hopes she would make it back before he woke up. Their house was hit by a stray fire jutsu, her little brother was killed in that fire along with their parents, and she was the sole survivor. She was then taken to Konoha severely traumatized by the tragedy. Aizen adopted her and turned her into the formidable seal master she is today. It's likely Aizen's control over her had lasted so long, the memory disappeared and left her to be molded to Aizen's liking. The sick bastard had dared to claim that he had raised her with the affection she needed, and that was the reason Hinamori had recovered from her trauma. It gained him a lot of support and sympathy, which solidified his position as division leader. The chance of recovery after under mind control seal for so long was almost non-existent. So, her mind was broken, Naruto muttered sadly. The Hinamori he knew might have never even existed, and just been an illusion done by Aizen. There's got to be a chance to undo the damage. He gritted out. There's got to be. He repeated determinedly. Hakurei didn't dare utter even a word to refute Naruto's conviction, he just hoped with time Naruto succeeded, or except sometimes it was wiser to give up. The next day, they attended the funeral for Tori and his ANBU team. Hokage comforted Naruto who, even though he shed tears, didn't say a word in front of their graves. When asked why he was so quiet, Naruto answered with a smile. I've already told Tori everything I want to say. I'm sure he is telling his squad that I love them. He closed his eyes. He's probably congratulating his squad right now for a job well done, because they protected me till the very end. He knows I'm grateful for them, and I know they're very proud of me. Itachi and Shisui couldn't help but smiled when they heard him, especially because his headband was tied on his forehead now. That was the first time Naruto was wearing his Konoha headband. He was no longer unsure of his allegiance, just like those who had passed on with pride for him in Konoha. He was Uzumaki Naruto of Konoha. And he was no longer alone. 8th Legacy, the Tower and the Uchiha. I think that, the one thing Naruto-kun fears the most after losing the people he cares about is, to see everything he sacrificed, his parents, childhood, friends, all be for nothing. Uchiha Itachi. Hospital, a day after the funeral. Believe it or not, Jinchuriki were not infallible beings as far as the bijou-enhanced healing properties and poison immunity went. Naruto was well aware of that truth since the bijou had no intentions of deluding his Jinchuriki about their mortality. While it was true bijou could heal almost any injuries from cuts, broken bones, and even organ ruptures, they couldn't save their Jinchuriki from grave wounds on the level of a destroyed heart or a missing head, and definitely not if someone had a way to disintegrate their body completely, as Kurama put it jokingly. Missing limbs or eyes or the likes had never happened to his previous Jinchurikis, so Kurama had no idea if he could regrow it. Though the fox was sure he could reattach it if Naruto was lucky enough to have not completely lost the limb. Naruto vehemently refused to test that theory. Poison was tricky stuff, according to Kurama, since he had to be aware of it, otherwise it would go left untreated. While the Bijou was confident he could prevent Naruto from dying of poison, he couldn't prevent Naruto from feeling the headache, nausea, and other symptoms if the poison was strong enough. And some particularly strong poisons would require Kurama to burn it out of his system. When Naruto had asked Kurama to test it using a mild poison, the cut had healed in record time, and the poison had evaporated from his wound, though he'd found the burning sensation to be very unpleasant. So Naruto had made it clear he disliked being poisoned, because burning it out of his system was a bitch. So when Naruto found out a unique tasting jelly was laced with poison, he was pretty pissed. He was sweaty from head to toe, and he looked like a cooked crab fresh from the pan. When Shisui and Itachi secretly visited him, they were pretty surprised to see an irate Naruto who looked like he had visited a sauna. "Some fools poisoned the jelly," he muttered as he slammed a privacy seal tag Hakurai had given him on the wall. By the time he had noticed the poison, a spoonful had already made it into his digestive system. It had been a mild poison, but because Kurama knew it would piss Naruto off, he had burned it out of his body. Next time be more vigilant. Kurama hissed in the back of his mind. "I'm sorry." Naruto rolled his eyes. If he wanted to be that cautious, he'd have to revert back to his diet of Ichiraku ramen and wild plants. Though no one had been foolish enough to poison him outright back then, there had always been a risk from the food he'd bought. Shisui gritted his teeth, "Damn." Naruto shook his head, "Let it be." He deadpanned as Itachi handed him a towel to wipe his sweat. "I should have noticed when I saw the nurse who brought my meal looking a bit dazed." Villagers usually limited themselves to doing things that wouldn't get them arrested and or killed most of the time, but some were brave enough to try their chances, though very rarely. "Genjutsu," Itachi drawled with a sigh. "Is this the first assassination attempt on you?" he asked curiously. Normally, he wouldn't feel any curiosity for an attempted assassination on his friend's life, but from how deadpan Naruto's response was, the Uzumaki cared even less than he did. Naruto shrugged, "Nah. Poison is the easiest and safest way to assassinate me since it's hard to trace, and not even ANBU is paranoid enough to check sealed cartons of milk or instant ramen. Besides, mild poisons only give a Jinchuriki a slight headache or stomachache." He shook his head, imagining a store clerk using a syringe or the likes to inject poison into his groceries. His ANBU guards had never worried of him dying from poison with justified reason, of course. "I see. Then again, Tori's squad knew my mother and the Uzumaki clan's bad habit of eating stuff that could cause indigestion in normal people. A habit he had unfortunately picked up. He'd lost count of the number of times he'd drunk spoiled milk before he found out about his Jinchuriki status. Kurama hadn't helped because he'd thought it was hilarious and believed his Jinchuriki should learn for himself, but luckily, it did wonders for his immunity. The general shinobi population should have known trying to kill a Jinchuriki with poison was futile, especially since no Jinchuriki had ever been recorded of dying of poisoning. No Bijou, including Shikaku, condoned death by poisoning since it was the stupidest way to die according to Kurama. "My status allows me to be careless of what I eat, though I recommend you don't eat in public with me." Shisui buried his face in his hands. "I can't believe you're talking about an assassination attempt like it's the weather," he muttered in disbelief. "You want me to bitch about it, Shisui?" Naruto asked out loud. "I'm sure my milk was poisoned from time to time when I was a baby." He raised his hand in placating gesture when he saw Shisui, and even Itachi, looking ready to snap. It was intentional, a tradition practiced on Uzumaki infants to build up immunity, not an assassination attempt. "So basically, I'm more immune than an average shinobi, or even Jinchuriki." He titled his head to the side, "I'm sure Yuzuriha and Takusa have poisoned my meals, as well as their own, from time to time." Shisui looked ready to scream murder, but Naruto stopped him. "It's a custom from Yuzu, and actually not that uncommon in some royal families." Itachi sighed at that, "I'm speechless." "Kurama is wondering why you didn't just grunt a HN instead of announcing your speechlessness," Naruto informed them with a grin. Itachi and Shisui looked at Naruto in disbelief. "Who?" Naruto chuckled softly. I am talking about my tenant. You speak to that demon? Shisui asked. You speak to the Kyuubi. He emphasized the incredulity of the whole ordeal. Him, Naruto corrected, leaving Shisui looking wary. After the incident with Aizen, Naruto believed Shisui had the right to know. It would also lessen Itachi's burden, because he wouldn't have to keep this secret from his cousin. And since the older Uchiha wasn't screaming profanities yet, he was certain Shisui didn't think he was possessed, probably for the same reason Itachi hadn't. Censor abilities were really convenient. I gave you his name because I want you to acknowledge that, while Kurama is indeed a demon and not the epitome of goodness, he's not a mindless, evil entity bent on destroying the world either. He's also not a natural disaster like people in Konoha believe. He stated in a stern tone, giving the Uchiha no room to argue otherwise. I trust you, Shisui, he declared with conviction, startling the Uchiha. Do you trust me? He knew Shisui was a loyal shinobi like Itachi and how they both were pacifists because of the war they'd witnessed. Shisui's lips slowly curved up. You know what? I've always believed that, in spite of how ungrateful most of us are, you've always protected Konoha, he began in a solemn tone. I don't know if I can trust your tenant, but I do know your parents entrusted Konoha to you, and I've seen Tori's squad give their lives to protect you and he listed on, Itachi trusts you. He glanced at his shocked cousin, and had the situation not been so serious, he would have laughed at Itachi's face. I know my cousin, and he's a better judge of character than I am. I've seen you both put your lives on the line for each other at a moment's notice, but more than anything. He trailed off, I trust my friend, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto blinked owlishly at that. You have a talent for rousing speeches. How unexpected, he muttered with a beaming grin. The Shunshin expert flushed a deep red. This is supposed to be when you cry crocodile tears because of how touched you are. Itachi sighed, rubbing his temple. Shisui. Nah. I'll pass the crying part, Naruto said dismissively. At any rate, Kurama doesn't trust you and Itachi, he warned them. The fox would forever distrust the Uchiha name, and though his Jinchuriki trusted the traitorous clan, he would always be vigilant. Shisui rolled his eyes. The feeling is mutual, he said nonchalantly. Are you buddies with him? Somewhat, Naruto said vaguely. The closest I dare to claim without him throwing a tantrum in the back of my mind is unwilling cellmates. It's hard to trust humans after decades of imprisonment, and in your case, you're related to someone he hates with the fire of 1,000 suns. No amount of suns are hot enough to convey my hatred, Kurama declared in mocking theatrics. Kurama. Naruto shook his head mentally. Madara. Shisui breathed out the name of a previous Uchiha clan leader. Itachi narrowed his eyes. Speaking of that man, there's something we have to tell you, Shisui. The Shunshin expert cringed when he saw Itachi's tranquil face, because he knew beneath that Itachi was truly angry. I have a feeling I won't like what you're about to say. You won't, Naruto confirmed. As you know, 8 years ago the Yondaime Hokage. Itachi told him the conversation he'd had with Naruto last year, and how he tried to convince Naruto of their clan's lack of involvement in the tragedy 8 years ago. The blonde added his point of view here and there, watching Shisui's frown with worry. It's unfortunate, but the Uchiha who was responsible for the Kyuubi's attack is not among us, and we have no clue where he is, Itachi finished. Shisui closed and then opened his eyes, revealing the 3 tomo of his Sharingan swirling in fury. I'll kill that bastard. He hissed murderously, turning to Itachi. Why the hell hasn't Konoha, or anyone in our own clan, ever tried to find this blood traitor? Because of him, we're treated like enemies by our own village. Itachi gritted his teeth, you know our clan. Even though we've denied our involvement, everyone is too ignorant and proud to acknowledge there's anyone out there with the Sharingan. There's the possibility of a blood traitor. Itachi rarely lost his temper, but when he did he had a good reason for it. I even sorted through our records, looking to see if there was any Uchiha bodies never retrieved or lost eyes. The Uchiha scion trailed off tiredly. Naruto, who had been informed by Itachi of the horrifying results, answered. Officially, the number of Uchiha bodies that were never retrieved from the battlefield is over 100. That was from the Second and Third War alone. but unofficially, it's unknown. What? Shisui shouted. Unknown. Shouldn't we keep a track record of that? Itachi shook his head. It's all because of the Third Shinobi War that went on for 10 years. Genin with undeveloped Sharingan could have awakened it but went missing before it could be recorded, bastard children that no one acknowledged. He listed the possibilities that caused the record to be inaccurate wearily. There are so many ways. Not to mention our main enemy in that war was a Wagakure. Naruto added with a sigh. A majority of our force that fell in that war had to be dug out. You know how IWA dealt with their enemies. Shisui scowled at that statement. He had just started academy when the war ended, but his older brother had been one of fallen shinobi in the Third War, and even to today, the grave remained just a name without a body. And after the war, our forces had suffered so many casualties that we couldn't spare the manpower to retrieve their bodies. He repeated the reason his uncle had told him when he'd asked why they'd never received his brother's body. Letting his temper overrun him here would be pointless, especially if they wanted to accomplish something. He was a bit angry Itachi hadn't said anything before, but he could understand why Naruto wanted to keep it secret. Naruto already had enough on his plate, and to have Konoha's upper echelon hounding him more than they already had was going to crush him. It was truly ironic that, while the whole village was in blissful ignorance, a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old green ANBU, and an 8-year-old Genin were the ones who were clued in and trying to do something for the good of their village. Then again, perhaps those upper-up folks did know but were doing nothing to defend the Uchiha clan or Naruto from the injustice. Should we tell someone from our clan? Shisui suggested. Itachi shook his head. You were screaming bloody murder the moment we told you, and so imagine what the rest of our clan would do. We'd be fanning the flames if we did. The upper echelons of Konoha are also out, Itachi stated sternly. Since they've done nothing to curb the rumor of our involvement, we can assume two possibilities: they don't know of the stray Uchiha's existence, or they really do suspect us. Or worse, Naruto added. Villagers would be more at ease knowing there's someone they could blame rather than unknown enemies in the dark they never knew of. As the saying goes, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. They could be allowing the Uchiha clan to be the convenient scapegoat to draw the attention of the villagers. Your clan is strong enough to the culprit, and they're part of the village so within jurisdiction. You all can't legally fight back, and the villagers have seen you ostracized. This is political warfare at its finest, a concrete reason to curb the Uchiha's political standing. He disliked thinking the worse of his grandfather figure in the village, but he of all people had no delusions of the Sandaime being a saint, nor of Konoha having no skeletons in their closet. It was no secret that the Sandaime's teacher, the Nidaime, had held a grudge against Madara and the Uchiha clan, so it was by no stretch of the imagination to conclude his dislike had been passed on to his students. Shisui gritted his teeth. Screw politics. We have a bloody traitor out there who can control Bijou, Madara himself or his second coming. We can't afford to worry about politics. The last time that bastard came, we were almost razed to the ground, he pointed out testily. Itachi sighed. I don't think we can just screw politics as you put it, since our village is well on its way of cutting their own limbs if they keep this up. He muttered forlornly. Agreed, Naruto muttered in agreement. I'm not going to lie, but while my situation and the people of the tower's situation isn't as bad as the Uchiha clan's, we're in a pretty difficult position right now. Yeah, and Shikaku is a bit sandy. Kurama muttered sardonically. Or Matatabi is a bit fiery. Naruto rolled his eyes inwardly at that. Which is why I'm bringing this topic up with the both of you, because God help me if we can't get out of this next shitstorm intact. There was a dark undertone in Naruto's voice that betrayed his calm expression as he relayed this to the Uchihas. Itachi and Shisui couldn't suppress their cringe at the rueful look on Naruto's face. Naruto. Shisui began, you're not even out of the hospital yet. Neither were they for that matter. Maybe we should talk more about this after we're discharged. Naruto shook his head. No, we have no time to wait, because there's disaster on the horizon, he retorted. For starters, I really hate the formal procedure of medical papers now, and how my fellow SEAL masters forgot teeth. It was an emergency situation so they could be excused for forgetting it when carrying dying children. We were pretty much in critical condition after that battle, and they had to rush us to the hospital or else. At least they had thought so. After all, finding Naruto and his two surviving friends collapsed, surrounded by so much blood and 4 dead ANBU, alluded to the search party that they had been on the verge of dying. So they had to march through the village in plain sight while carrying us. Shisui guessed with a frown. Yes, but the real problem started in the hospital when the doctors inquired about what the hell had happened to us, Naruto informed them ruefully. They'd had no choice but to inform the medical staff about the situation, especially when it came to Aizen's true nature, his chakra, how someone, Hakurai's brother, had died because of his clan's enzyme, and so on. Itachi frowned. So, the news about Aizen being a traitor has been leaked now. Aizen was still Naruto's mentor in official paperwork, so for a traitor to tutor Konoha's Jinchuriki would undoubtedly cause unrest in Konoha. And they know Shisui and I were involved. Naruto nodded. Not just that. It's no secret half of the tower's inhabitants were avid supporters of Aizen when they thought he was a benevolent leader. Since it was quite a fuss when the position was bequeathed to Aizen, Naruto wouldn't be surprised if a majority of the shinobi population knew about the divided loyalty. The tower may be the core of Konoha's defense mechanism, but half of us are now suspected as traitors. Even though everyone, including Aizen's men, were equally angry at the dead man. Hakurai has tried his best. He's checked Aizen's former supporters for evidence of a mind control seal, and fortunately all of them are clean and severely regret ever trusting that bastard, but that's not enough assurance. Shisui guessed warily. Yes, Naruto answered with a sigh. And now they've found out that I'm working in the tower and that the bastard was my ex-master to boot. He trailed off. Miraculously, this news reached only Konoha's upper echelon and probably a minority of the shinobi population. Oh dear. Shisui breathed out. How well the Sandaime could manage to keep it that way was questionable. Worst case scenario, I get removed from the tower, which won't be taken well by the people of the tower at all, on top of them getting the blame for Aizen's betrayal. And if they decided to take drastic measures, the people of the tower will shut down Konoha's defense seal mechanism. Shisui blanched at that. What the hell? This is the Uchiha's history all over again but on a smaller scale. Though, the Uchiha's drastic measures would be a coup. Itachi narrowed his eyes. That's really reckless. There's more to this problem, isn't there? Regretfully, yes, he gritted out. Naruto almost wanted to strangle Hakurai for his stupidity. Even though it wouldn't cripple Konoha permanently, it would deal significant damage to Konoha's defense. Old friend or not, the Hokage and his advisors wouldn't be happy about it. The majority of the tower's population are refugees from Yuzu, and while they've officially been absorbed into Konoha's forces, unofficially, they consider themselves to be doing a favor for Konoha under Uzumaki Mitosama's order. Naruto explained grimly. I had suspected something to be suspicious since Hokage-sama seemed to be keen on keeping me away from them before I was apprenticed, but I didn't expect this. Expect what? Naruto facepalmed. While it was understandable he'd been ignorant about how Konoha viewed the people of the tower due to his severe lack of interaction with the village, he still berated himself for being too engrossed in his own problems and oblivious to his surroundings. They're treated like foreigners, and they act like ones. Their loyalty is to an Uzumaki, to me. While Hakurai respects the Sandaime to an extent, his loyalty is to our clan, not Konoha. He buried his face in his hands. This arrangement was never a problem when Mitosama was a loyal mother to Konoha, my mother was the same, and Aizen, they had thought that bastard owed them a favor for his position. Hakurai, on the other hand. No matter what the reason, Konoha made Aizen his brother's successor, and the Sandaime closed the case of Sanjetsu's mysterious death as terminal illness. Add to that Konoha has treated me, the son of an Uzumaki, like a pariah for something I couldn't control. Something Konoha should have kissed your feet for, you mean? Shisui corrected with a huff. He shook his head ruefully at that. At any rate, both sides are now aware that the tower is unhappy with Konoha and vice versa. They feel they've been condemned and believe Konoha still owes them a lot. Naruto summarized the whole ordeal grossly. On the other hand, Konoha has just realized they've pissed off the wrong clan, and it's too late for damage control. While they won't start a civil war, people of the tower will, unfortunately, boycott simply to show how much Konoha owes them. Itachi gritted his teeth. This was going to lead Konoha to her doom. A spark can start a fire that burns the entire prairie. This is the beginning of an end. Our village is going to dismember her own limbs, he concluded grimly. If the tower starts to act openly hostile to our government, those who are displeased with current government will rebel. It'll be a domino effect, and Itachi had no delusions that his clan, or at least a fraction of it, wouldn't be eager to restore the Uchiha's power in Konoha. The upper echelon is undoubtedly unhappy that 1. Hokage-sama put you under the tutelage of a traitor, and 2. The people in the tower are irreplaceable since seal masters are a scarcity. Itachi summarized the situation grossly. Naruto blinked at that scarcity. He repeated, frowning as that one little fact sunk in. There's one mostly harmless solution. Itachi and Shisui perked up at that. What do you have in mind? Naruto glanced at the Uchihas. I need both your guys' help as well as Hakuriai's. The man wasn't going to like this solution, but he would go with it for their sake. I have a bad feeling about this. I wish I could say I disagree with you. Naruto thought wishfully. On a better note, if we can make this work, we'll celebrate that birthday party with cake, candles, song, crackers. I don't care how childish it is if it makes my subordinates happy. He promised solemnly. Old man in a kid's body, Shisui growled out when they were out of Naruto's room, stealthily returning to their own. Both of you. Itachi narrowed his eyes. He didn't deserve this, he stated. I know, Shisui agreed tiredly. When I met him I thought I could see you, had the war never changed you. Itachi frowned at that. It feels like yesterday I saw a kid trying to act mature, and then before I knew it, there was a man in the body of a child. He hissed regretfully. Itachi didn't know what to say about that. Shinobi are people who endure, and we changed. The Uchiha scion felt a little guilty for that. After all, when he was 3, Shisui and Uncle Obito had treated him like their favorite little brother, but war was never merciful to a child's innocence. Obito had been killed on a mission, and Shisui had lost his older brother, then Kyubi had attacked their village. And before Shisui knew it, Itachi had become a full-pledged shinobi and no longer a little brother he could pamper. At least when you're 8 years old, you were the talented heir of the Uchiha clan who shouldered our clan's expectation, and you succeeded, Shisui stated ruefully. Naruto has to face all of this. He should only have to think of how to achieve his dream of living up to his legacy, a simple dream all heirs have, not think of how to prevent a political shitstorm that could spark a civil war. The prodigy shook his head. Naruto-kun's life has been devoted to Konoha since he was born. He muttered forlornly. I think that, the one thing Naruto-kun fears the most after losing the people he cares about is, to see everything he sacrificed, his parents, childhood, friends, all be for nothing. Hokage Tower. Hakurai would always be loyal to the Uzumaki clan, but specifically to Uzumaki Naruto. He was, after all, the boy who had inherited Mito-sama's and Kushina-sama's will. Things he'd always admired about them was their drive as seal masters and unmoving loyalty, though the latter was unfortunately against the boy's well-being. It took a saint mentality to survive the mental abuse this village had condemned the young Jinchuriki to. Unlike the ignorant villagers of other hidden villages, Uzushiogakure hailed a Jinchuriki as a hero. Contrary to what was widely believed in the shinobi world, Mito-sama wasn't the first Uzumaki Jinchuriki of a demon, bijou, or otherwise. Some demons were strong enough to require a human vessel in order to seal them, and those who volunteered to be a sacrifice for the ritual were seen as a hero of Uzushiogakure. He could never comprehend the foolishness of those who condemned a Jinchuriki to a life of isolation. It was like stepping on a landmine repeatedly. But for his young master's sake, Hakurai would honor Mito-sama's wish to protect Konoha like they would Uzushiogakure. He, however, would make it clear that Konoha owed Naruto-sama more than they already did. Naruto sometimes wished he could lead a normal life, well, as normal as a shinobi's life could be. Though that wish had been rendered impossible since the very first hour of his life, because he was made into a Jinchuriki. The Sandaime had definitely tried, but the old Kage had failed spectacularly by informing the general populace of his situation. There was no point crying over spilled milk that had become sour. He just hoped he could make this plan work. So why did you unseal the treasure, knowing there was a possibility that you could have been unleashing a terrible being? Hamura, the former teammate of Sandaime, asked. Genin Uzumaki. Naruto took a deep breath. As written in our report, ANBU failed to catch Aizen Sasuke off guard, and he was holding Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Shisui hostage, knowing they're dear friends of mine. He would have added Hinamori, but someone who had been under the control of Aizen would be an unfavorable mention. I'm a proficient seal master but also a mere inexperienced genin level shinobi. Admit your shortcomings, but don't let them deny your expertise. Had I foolishly denied Aizen, he would have resorted to more desperate measures, and even I could see that man was not in his right mind, he stated firmly, knowing no one could refute Aizen's unstable mind. I see. He would have killed the hostages and myself, but had the situation resorted to sacrificing ourselves to end his ambitions, I would have. He lied smoothly, ignoring the rueful look on the Sandame's face. He wouldn't have really sacrificed Itachi, Shisui, and his ANBU guards, and he had said as much, but these people didn't need to know that. If they slept better at night believing they knew how fiercely loyal Konoha's Jinchuriki was, it would curry their favor to him. Aizen could have tried to power the seal with his malicious chakra, and if we were lucky, it wouldn't have affected the seal at all, but considering the nature of the seal was that of the Shodame's Mokutan chakra, it could have caused an overcharge of the seal because of the corrosive nature of Aizen's chakra. The seal would have spontaneously combusted, and the damage on the tower would have been inevitable. He let the implication sink in of how disastrous it would have been had Konoha lost the tower. I chose to take another risk. I unsealed the treasure for him and attacked him when he was distracted. And it worked, no one could deny that. I was careless. Admit your shortcomings, don't deny it or it could be used against you. Hinamori-san was used as a puppet of Aizen, one that remained active even when I inflicted significant damage on him. A legitimate reason to fail that even ANBU had missed. Koharu squinted her eyes at the young seal master, but he showed nothing that betrayed their image of him, a prodigy tempered with discipline and completely devoted to the Hokage to repay the privilege that had been granted generously to him. No longer was he the boisterous child he had been. Very well. I can see your choice as the wiser one with minimal damage. The ANBU squad would have survived had they been more skilled. Naruto suppressed the urge to clench his fist and gave the councilwoman a rueful smile. And you resealed the treasure along with that traitor? He nodded solemnly, yes. Hakuri Aishirsho has examined the seal himself, and will do everything in our power to double the security of the forbidden treasure. And maybe we'll find a way to safely destroy it soon. Hamura cleared his throat. That's assuring, he muttered skeptically, but this report of yours. The man tapped his finger against the manila folder Naruto submitted a day before. It implied you commanded a squad of ANBU, the very same squad Uchiha Itachi was scheduled to join in a few weeks, and Uchiha Shisui against Aizen. Naruto frowned at that. It's true that it was me who relayed the plan to Itachi-senpai, but it was Nozumi's sacrifice and Tori's protection of me that allowed me to finish the seal. He muttered ruefully. That required your special chakra. Sarutobi finished in stern tone. At any rate, we should congratulate your coming of age, according to Uzumaki tradition. Congratulations, Naruto-kun, you've lived up to their legacy. He bowed in respect toward the old Kage. Thank you for your kind words, Hokage-sama. Hakurei nodded approvingly, his young master had done well. He watched as the Hokage and his two advisors exchanged looks of approval, and though the Hokage looked a bit reluctant, there was no ignoring Naruto-sama's potential. He cleared his throat. It will soon be 2 years since the beginning of Naruto-kun's formal training as a seal master, and he has surpassed our expectations and completed his basic and intermediate seal levels with flying colors, he informed them proudly. So it is with pride I declare his apprenticeship fully completed. He ignored the displeasure on Sarutobi's face. His old friend must have thought he was putting too much of a burden on his young master. Sarutobi was wrong in that account, but he had no desire to correct the old Kage. He's a full-fledged seal master now, but of course, while he has the right to continue research on his own, I will supervise Naruto-kun whenever he needs me, he assured them cordially. At the rate he's advancing at in the art of sealing, give it 3, no, 2 years, and Naruto-kun will be ready to take an apprentice of his own. Their eyes widened at that, and Hakurei let himself bask in their incredulous stare. Obviously, they knew nothing about the formal education of the sealing art. The Uzumaki clan was born for this art, and formal education only covered basic and intermediate materials. Those were usually completed in 4 years by Uzumaki clan members, and Naruto had begun that nearly 3 years ago. Hakurei was well aware of how his young master abused Kagebunshin no Jutsu in learning their arts, but he saw no reason why Naruto-sama shouldn't use every advantage he was given if the headache was worth it. Surely you jest, Uchiha Koharu accused him. Hakuryai shook his head. I dare not to jest about something like this, it's been this way since the founding of Uzushigakure. He stated firmly, leaving no room for arguments. Which leads me to my second request. He trailed off. As the leader of the sealing division, I cast my vote in favor of his promotion. They looked hesitant for a moment, but Naruto was well aware the only one who was truly hesitating to promote him was the Hokage. The old Kage was worried, and Aizen's betrayal left him guilty and wanting to refrain from putting too much burden on him by promoting him. His advisors, on the other hand, would put the good of the village before his qualms, and if anything, be relieved that Konoha was not left behind in terms of strength because of their Jinchuriki. The awakening of his special chakra would further solidify their opinions on his advancement, not to mention, Hakuryai would be pleased. Hamura raised his right hand. I, Mitokado Hamura, approve Genin Uzumaki Naruto's promotion to Chunin. Sarutobi looked at his teammate in disbelief, but quickly turned his attention back to Koharu, who followed Hamura's example. I, Uchiha Koharu, approve Genin Uzumaki Naruto's promotion to Chunin. She muttered in a solemn tone. Naruto could tell his grandfather figure was inwardly bristling and disapproved sacrificing him for the good of the village even more. However, they needed to approve his promotion or else. Hokage-sama. Hakuryai began, and Naruto hoped Hakuryai could deliver what he'd asked of him perfectly, or the point of this meeting would be moot. Naruto-kun strives to be a formidable combat seal master. He gave the old Kage a curt nod, his eyes unwavering under the hardened gaze. And for that he needs field experience. I wish to help my young seal master achieve his fullest potential for the good of our village. He is young, Sarutobi stated. Hakuryai rolled his eyes inwardly. The old monkey was as stubborn as ever. Hataki-kun was 6 when he became a Chunin. And he couldn't claim that Naruto was different or less talented, not after Aizen's incident, Hakuryai thought. We're not in war now. There's no reason to push a young child into advancing so quickly, Sarutobi muttered, glaring at the old seal master. Hakuryai snorted inwardly. There's no reason to deny a young prodigy advancement. If anything, that's more reason to let Naruto-kun be promoted. He stated firmly. Times are peaceful. Less dangerous missions are perfect for Naruto-kun to grow at his own pace. Then he turned to the advisors, Mitokado Dano and Uchiha Dano approve. The old Kage seemed to be firm in holding his ground, but he knew he was losing. One more push was all it needed unless he wished to be alienated. Hokage-sama. Naruto's voice broke his glaring contest with Hakuryai, much to his chagrin. I understand your worries about an inexperienced genin such as myself, Sarutobi flinched guiltily. However, I wish to improve as a combat seal master. I realize my folly of staying in the tower, severely neglecting my in-field experience as a combatant. He clenched his fist. I'll not refuse placement on any team of your choosing, Hokage-sama. Konoha needs capable seal masters, and I wish to fill that role. For all the lies and suffering the old Kage had caused, Naruto knew that Sarutobi loved him. It was unfair to use that feeling, but life never was, especially a shinobi's. Very well. Sarutobi closed his eyes. I, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Sandaime Hokage approve of Genin Uzumaki's promotion to Chunin rank. May your will of fire burn fiercely for Konoha. Naruto bowed deeply in respect. Thank you Hokage-sama. Mitokado-sama, Uchiha-sama. I thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I vow to devote myself to Konoha and the will of fire, he vowed solemnly. He opened his eyes slowly, gazing at Hakuryai and the old Kage. With this he was one step closer to achieving his purpose, and he clenched his fist in anticipation. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Hakuryai muttered, you have our gratitude for this. He trailed off. In light of Naruto-kun's promotion as a Chunin and full-pledged seal master, I would like to extend an offer to the village as a whole to learn sealing arts. Anyone you recommend is welcome into our tower. Foundation subject tests are still required, but those who fail will be given supplementary lessons until they're deemed qualified to start the basic. Afterwards, if they wish to go further, they would be given a personal teacher to supervise their future research on advanced seals. Those we deemed qualified would be offered apprenticeship right away. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Did the proud Shiamitsu Hakuryai just give Konoha what they'd been asking for since Mito's passing, on a silver platter? That's wonderful news. Surprisingly, Koharu was the first to regain her voice. It felt like just yesterday when Jiraiya had been kicked out of the tower as soon as he'd mastered the basic of the sealing art, which was the most the people of the tower allowed an outsider to learn from them. And to get even that much, they had to test his knowledge on the foundation subjects of Fuinjutsu and get a recommendation letter from a member of the tower. Even those who managed to pass the required qualifications weren't guaranteed to pass the formal education. The clans in the tower were willing to share foundation knowledge, but anything beyond that was guarded jealously. Minato had been a special case. Not everyone was a talented prodigy and lover of Uzumaki Kushina. Not to mention Minato's father was a close friend of Hakuryai and Sangetsu. As Jiraiya said, his blonde student was a lucky bastard when it comes to sealing art. Hakuryai suppressed his urge to grin. While it pained him to share the centuries of knowledge Uzumaki had achieved with blood, sweat and tears, he knew the result would be worth it. This was just the start. His young master wouldn't do anything halfway. Konoha would be forced, kicking and screaming, into acknowledging their ignorance and where they truly belong. Beneath his young master's feet. Naruto rolled his eyes inwardly at the slight twitch of Hakuryai's hand. The old man must be thinking something about putting Konoha in their place again. It seemed it would take a while to make the people of the tower view Konohagakure as their home. But for now, whatever ploy Hakuryai thought he was cooking up for the sake of his people, it would serve to better the cause. And another proposal we would like to offer. Hakuryai began grandly, undoubtedly having no intentions of letting the three veterans recover from their short episode of stupor. Courtesy of Naruto-kun and Uchiha Dano. Naruto didn't miss the slight twitch of Koharu's and Hamura's eyes when they heard about the Uchiha's involvement, especially since it reeked of ostracized clans should stick with each other political strategy. Itachi had informed Naruto that his father was quite floored by the proposal, but the Uchiha clan was grasping straws trying to maintain their noble status nowadays, so the prospect was too good to pass up. Naruto himself had written the proposal to Fugaku, though the stamp was Hakuryai's. His retainer was unhappy to involve the Uchihas, but he couldn't deny they owed Itachi and Shisui nor that it would benefit both the tower and the Uchiha clan. Naruto was also glad that the three students of the Nidaime always tried to hide their prejudice against Uchiha clan. After all, they had to show a united front regardless of the bad blood with the Uchihas. They couldn't reject the proposal without legitimate reason. Sarutobi, to his credit, managed to find his voice before his old teammates did. What is it that you would like to propose, Hakuryai Dano? Hakuryai didn't bother to conceal his smile as he placed a bundle of papers on their desk, a pile for each of them. Much to our chagrin, we haven't really updated our security seals for a long time, due to many unfavorable factors. He cleared his throat. That was one way to describe status quo between the tower and Konoha's government. While we have a borderline perfect barrier to detect enemies, we have a very standard and unconventional method when it comes to intruders. Thus, I propose a surveillance system that would incorporate Konoha's military police force. Why the Uchiha's military police force? Koharu blurted out before she could stop herself. She tried to hide her slip-up, but to be honest, her teammates were thinking the same. Naruto suppressed the urge to snort. He had a feeling his grandfather figure was going to ask them to wait so he could consider the proposal. Well, too bad they wouldn't get that chance. This surveillance system is to monitor our civilian population, and it's within the police force's jurisdiction, is it not? Naruto pointed out with a genial smile that eerily reminded the old Kage of Minato when his successor was scheming. They know what goes on within the village better than most, so for this proposed system to work, we need their cooperation, he drawled, blue eyes showing nothing but enthusiasm. And Chunin Itachi has spoken with Uchiha Dano regarding this system, so we have a blueprint of the mechanism ready to be installed in our village, Naruto informed them formally. Hamura narrowed his eyes at the young blonde. Without discussing it with us first. Hakuryai raised an eyebrow at the veteran. We're doing that now, Hamura Dano. Developing a proposal is strictly within our jurisdiction. In fact, Mito-sama made it clear in her decree we're not allowed to propose an idea that's still premature. It was a lie, of course, at least the part about making the seal and proposal, especially since they had just copied the ancient seal Uzushio Gakure used long ago with some slight tweaking here and there. The discussion with Uchiha Dano was vital in the blueprint, so we couldn't afford to finalize it without his assistance. Hakurai had to say he was impressed the Uchihas were as dedicated as the tower in their duty. They really knew Konoha's civilian population inside and out, housing, security systems, and so on. While they weren't his favorite clan, both sides had a grudging respect towards the other's professionalism. He didn't trust Fugaku fully yet, but he trusted his heir, and Itachi was very loyal to his young master. If the young man dared to betray Naruto-sama, he would deal with the Uchiha accordingly. Well then, should we discuss when to begin this project on a later date? Hakurai urged them, fully enjoying their shell-shocked faces. We never agreed to this proposal, Kohara gritted out. Hakurai leaned in, why not? Pray tell, Kohara Dano, is there a mistake you've spotted in our proposal? There was none, of course, aside from them not trusting the Uchiha clan to manage the system, and they couldn't voice that out loud. Denying the Uchiha the right to manage it was a foolish move. Especially since said system was within Uchiha's jurisdiction, authorized by Naidame himself. Sarutobi sighed inwardly, he had nothing against this proposal to be honest. Who knew, this could probably sate the Uchiha clan's growing resentment about their lack of political prowess. It might bite them hard later, but rejecting this proposal without a sound reason would make the tower and the Uchihas more hostile. Alienating both of them would crush Konoha's inner defense, and he was well aware the boycott threat from Hakurai had not been called off yet. The tower and the Uchiha clan were showing a united front, both aware that Konoha had backed them into the corner, and so were willing to work with each other. And in the middle of that was Naruto-kun, who was fond of his new family and friends. He had shown growing distrust toward Konoha's general population, and refusing this proposal would make it worse. Especially since Naruto saw nothing wrong with the proposal, technically, there was none, but politically. For a political scheme to rear its ugly head here was unfavorable for their side. Sarutobi steeled himself as he straightened his back, very well. I approve this proposal. From the corner of his eyes, he could see his old teammates' hesitation, but they all knew it would do more harm than good to reject this proposal. We'll have another meeting to discuss this matter further and to proceed with its actualization. Naruto felt like a heavy burden had just been lifted from his shoulders, and the world seemed brighter from what it was moments ago. Thank you, Hokage-sama, he breathed out in relieved voice. Sarutobi almost gasped when he saw Naruto's smile. It was a small, beautiful smile, a smile he hadn't been given since he gave Naruto the apprentice right. His heart almost stopped from the shock, but the emotion was quickly replaced with a familiar warmth. The same warmth that occurred whenever he managed to give a shred of happiness to the young Jinchuriki. Uchiha Compound. Itachi had never asked for anything from his parents and had always been an obedient child who did what they asked unquestionably. He was a prodigious son befitting of the main family of the Uchiha clan. So when Itachi did ask something of them for the first time, Fugaku didn't know whether to be pleased or horrified by Itachi's request. But this was a special occasion. At first he considered giving Naruto a nice set of high-quality kunai and shuriken, but dismissed the idea the moment he remembered that the Shiomitsu was a clan of blacksmith. There was no way he could get some with higher quality in the market than theirs. While Itachi would never admitted it, he was well aware there was some sort of rivalry between him and Shisui with the Shiomitsu siblings when it came to Naruto. He wanted to give his best friend a memorable present, especially since this was the first time Naruto had celebrated his birthday. The last few days had been hectic, but thanks to Naruto's quick wit, they'd managed to avoid a civil war, while pocketing a favor from his clan no less. His parents had been in a very good mood since then, and it was the perfect opportunity for him to ask for their assistance. Do we have anything that belonged to the Yondaime or Kushina-san that could be given to Naruto-kun? Fugaku repeated his son's request. Itachi nodded. Yes, I wish to give him something from them. I assure you that Naruto-kun isn't asking for this personally. Itachi clenched his fist. It's just, I want him to have something to hold on to. What you can tell me about the Yondaime and a redhead named Kushina? Naruto asked one afternoon while sitting on a branch of Yujo no Ki. Itachi stiffened and looked at Naruto, eyes wide. Naruto shook his head. You don't have to tell me anything, he smiled sadly before sighing. This secrecy law really sucks. Just keep it a secret, I ever asked. Itachi cut him off with, the yondaime was a calm, collected, and perceptive shinobi. Naruto stared at him in shock, and for the first time since he met the blonde child, Itachi saw under his calm mask of a prodigal seal master. He was known for his unbeatable determination and unbelievable drive, something I believe he has passed on too. Naruto shook his head again. You should stop there, Itachi. You'll get in trouble if you continue, he warned the Uchiha scion. But more than anything, Itachi continued, he deeply cared for and loved his family. The onyx-eyed youth smiled sadly. When I was 4, I remember seeing him tackle my father because he was so happy about a new addition to his family. Is that so? Naruto muttered, tears starting to pool in the corner of his blue eyes. Kushina-san was a friend of my mother. She was renowned for her beauty and prowess as a kunoichi. My mother said she had a temper and was fearless, so it was a big surprise to see Kushina-san worried about labor pains like most women. Itachi took a deep breath. She was very kind, and I'm sure she would be a loving mother. Naruto smiled at that. I think you can stop now. He looked as though he was barely holding back tears. You've told me enough. I'm sorry to have troubled you with such a selfish question. It's not. I think it is, Naruto corrected. It's troubling, isn't it? If you continue I'll be too greedy for my own good, he muttered, wiping his tears away and slapping both of his cheeks until they reddened. Okay. Break's over. Let's get back to training. And with that, the Jinchuriki sprinted to the nearest clearing to do just that. Very well. Itachi blinked owlishly at his father. He had been expecting his father to refuse, and then for his mother to attempt to persuade him. Fugaku nodded. We happen to have something that was given to us, that I'm sure is inconspicuous enough to be given to the child. Mikoto eyed her husband in shock. Dear, could it be you're thinking of that? She asked in disbelief. Fugaku nodded. Yes, that. You can't be serious. She looked horrified by the idea. That's not something you'd give a child. Fugaku shrugged. Do you have a better idea, because a photo album is definitely out. Mikoto looked disheartened. So are other obvious things, like Minato's special kunai. Tu-san, Ka-san. Itachi called to get their attention. I assure you he'll treasure anything you can give, he has nothing from his parents. Aside from the demon in his gut which Naruto could fortunately call a friend. He bears so many burdens and has received nothing in return. Fugaku and Mikoto looked at each other. Very well. Mikoto said, giving in as she and her husband stood up from their seiza. I will fetch it for you, just don't freak out when I tell you what it is, she muttered with a sigh. 5 minutes later Itachi stared at the thing his mother gave to him. No wonder his mother thought it was an inappropriate gift for a child. But then again, it was the thought that mattered, right? Fugaku cleared his throat as he re-entered the room. The clan head handed over a book titled The Tale of the Utterly Gutsy Shinobi to his son, who accepted the book with a puzzled look. This is something I forgot to return to a certain blonde idiot. Give it to his next of kin. Itachi nodded, a small smile on his lips. Of course. Tu-san. Also. Fugaku trailed off uncomfortably. Yes. I think your mother should tell you the details of what she was going to give to you, Fugaku muttered forlornly. The next day. It was a beautiful bird mask with a white base, red and black markings adorning it. However, unlike a normal mask, it only covered half of his face, from his nose up. Together with the mask was a custom-made headband made of black cloth with a red Konoha symbol. It covered his neck, chin, and half of his cheek. When worn together with the mask, only his mouth and a small part of his cheek could be seen. When he received the gift his late ANBU guards had entrusted to Cheyenne, Naruto hadn't expected a mask or the headband at all. The Sandaime Hokage's eyes widened when he saw Naruto putting the mask on, and Naruto didn't miss the grief on the aged Kage's face. The blonde narrowed his eyes beneath his mask. It either belonged to his parents or was a replica Tori and his squad made. Naruto took off the porcelain mask, inspecting the back part, and noted there was a small hinge on both sides and the bottom part slid down, and the mask turned to be a full cover one. He inspected the pattern next. There was a black triangle with red lining from the bridge of the nose to the temple, while its beak was red. What bird is this? Naruto asked curiously. Wagtail, Sarutobi answered with a sad smile. Sekirei, in folklore or Ainu. It's said that they were sent by Kamui to create habitable land in the watery world. A small bird capable of great things. The blonde couldn't help but smiled at that. Oh. I see. Was that what Tori and his squad thought of him? Itachi frowned at that, recalling an old memory from when he was 4 years old. His mother and Uzumaki Kushina had been talking about names they were planning for their unborn sons. It was so long ago, but he remembered because his mother, or was it Kushina Bazin, had talked about Wagtail being her old ANBU mask, and how she was considering naming her child Sekirei if she had a daughter. Aren't they the sacred birds of the two divine gods Izanagi and Izanami, goddess of creation and death, for it was through them that these divinities first learned the art of love? Itachi blurted out. Naruto and Shisui went wide-eyed, while Sandaime coughed. Love. Naruto sputtered in disbelief. Art of love. Well. Itachi looked very uncomfortable. Someone once told me wagtails are the birds that taught love to humanity. Kushina had sounded very proud when she told that to his mother, and his mother had gushed at that. Naruto heard Kurama snort at that and say something along lines of how humanity was pathetic if they were taught how to love by insectivorous birds. Oh. Now he could guess whose mask it was, or at least where Tori and his squad had gotten the idea from. It's Shinto mythology. Itachi shrugged. Then Naruto turned to the Sandaime Hokage. Ji-chan, is the Ainu's myth right? The aged Kage smiled at that. Ah yes, according to the Ainu clan. They were both very knowledgeable, and sometimes he wondered how the two prodigies managed to squeeze time to broaden their horizon with their already busy schedules. Shisui grinned from ear to ear as he slung his right arm around Naruto's shoulder. Wow, so, the mask represents a lot of meaning. Don't you dare make a crack out of it, Naruto hissed into his ear. Shisui grinned at that. Oh, of course not. Ha ha ha. Naruto turned his attention to the pile of presents he received, and to be honest, he was almost teary-eyed at the mere sight of it, but he wouldn't hear the end of it from Shisui if he dared to cry. It was the first time in his life he'd seen presents piling like this for him. Normally, he only received a couple of gifts from the Sandaime and his ANBU guards, while Ichiraku gave him free meal coupons. Sandaime had given him a high-quality weapon pouch and kunai holster this year, and the Shiomitsus had given him a complete set of brushes, which were undoubtedly pricey judging from the ornamented box. Yuzuriha and Takusa were, thankfully, considerate enough to add a brush hanger made of bamboo and a brush carrier made of durable black cloth he could wrap around his thigh like a kunai holster. Other seal masters had gifted him with seal supplies they made personally, shinobi standard undershirts, sweets, or plants. The latter was very appreciated, although Hakurai was torn between being amused and exasperated that the rooftop of their tower resembled a jungle rather than a rooftop from afar. Shisui had given him a hug, much to his chagrin, before shoving a neatly wrapped present at his chest. Naruto had been really wary of Shisui's grin, as it made it seem whatever was inside was probably one hell of joke. And Itachi? He had to wonder what the Uchiha heir had gotten. Itachi had gone through the trouble of arriving 1 hour early, only to pass the neatly wrapped gift to him as though it was some sort of secret forbidden scroll. He had then proceeded to tell him that he should keep it a secret if possible, with a weird look on his face as he glanced back at the present. What had Itachi gotten into for this secret present? The cake, thankfully, was edible and was presentable, too, though Naruto suspected Cheyenne had had a hand in helping Yuzuriha and Takusa. It was a mystery how they were skilled seal masters and decent cooks, yet for some reason, oven and cream pipes never agreed with them. He had taken a few peeks at their experimental cakes, and some looked like charred coals, while the frosting looked like froth rather than cream. A few had also looked a bit demented with bloody fingerprints all over them. He had resigned himself to eating whatever they produced on this day, as he was confident that Kurama could prevent the worst. Fortunately, his fear was unfounded, since Cheyenne definitely wouldn't let his cousins attempt to poison their young master, in his birthday at least. Naruto sighed as he took a plate of matcha mochi from the buffet table, then handed it to Itachi. Eat up, I won't bug you about unhealthy sugar intake today. Itachi blinked owlishly at that. Thanks. Sandaime raised a graying eyebrow at that, while Shisui laughed in the background. A few hours later, after most of the guests went home, Naruto began to unseal presents he hadn't unwrapped yet. In total he had about 15, as some seal masters had pitched to get a single present, which was why the number of gifts didn't add up to the number of guests. Naruto opened Shisui's present that was wrapped in a blue cloth like some sort of bento, and when he held it up, the present was pretty heavy. He slowly untied the knot, his eyes widening when he saw a pair of geta. He suppressed his urge to scream Shisui's name in rage when he saw that the baka had given him a pair of Tengu geta. The elevated wooden base was 20 centimeters thick. He got you there, midget. Shut up, Kurama. I'll grow taller than him. It's not fair to compare him with me now since he's in his growth spurt period. Kurama rolled his eyes. In case you forgot, he's 6 years older than you. Humph. Naruto vowed that he would raise hell on Shisui the next time they sparred. So he moved on to the next present, which was from Itachi, and the one he was most curious about. It was wrapped in a simple neat red wrapping paper with a card attached to it. Since this was Uchiha Itachi, the card only had, "Happy Birthday," and his name written on it. Then again, he had already received too many sappy congratulation cards from his subordinates. He unwrapped it carefully, cutting the perfectly lined tape with scissors. Trust Itachi to be a neat freak. Inside was a small brown box that encased the present that Naruto opened. He blinked in confusion when he saw a book titled The Tale of Utterly Gutsy Ninja, which was not a weird present from one bookworm to another, but the other present tipped him off. It was a small, orange brocade bag with red Uzumaki swirls embroidered on the front part. It took 3 seconds for his brain to register it as an omamori, Japanese charm, and that Itachi had given him a well-wishing gift. Was it common to give this as a birthday present? He wondered as he took the charm out of the box, feeling what was contained inside. He frowned when the tip of fingers felt the contents, something like a bundle of threads and something rectangular made of hard wood. He flipped the omamori so he could see the backpack and froze when he saw the word that was embroidered with red thread on it. Enmusubi, acquisition of a mate and marriage. Heh. His brain tried to process that not only had Itachi given him a charm, it was charm for romance. It took a full minute for his brain to reboot. I think I've seen that thing before somewhere, Kurama muttered in the back of his mind. Aha. Kushina gave that to one of her Uchiha friends years ago. Engagement present or something, ha ha ha. Ka-sans. What's inside? He knew it was inadvisable to take a peek on an omamori's content, but he had a feeling whatever was inside was meant to be taken out of the brocade bag. He carefully loosened the rope that tied it, using his forefinger and middle finger to pick up the object. His eyes widened when he saw a small framed photo, a picture from his dream. His father was smiling as he hugged his pregnant mother who sat on a chair, caressing his father's hair fondly. This is... Oh! How daring of them! Kurama was mildly impressed. Those Uchiha could get in trouble with the Sandaime if the old Kage found out. Naruto trembled as his shaking finger traced the photo, a portrait of his family. One that even had him in it, never mind he was still in his mother's womb. The small part of his mind that still held childish mischievousness added that Kurama counted as being in photo as well. It took him only a few minutes to snap out of his musings, because beneath his happiness, fear and anxiety started to surface. If this photo was discovered by someone, there would trouble, more so for Itachi. He quickly put the photo back inside the brocade bag, albeit reluctantly. He'd have all the time in the world to look at it later once he created a good seal to secure it. His mind browsed through all the genjutsu, security, and durability seals he could use. Kurama rolled his eyes at the whirlwind of thoughts. Stop before you fry your brain. Naruto ignored Kurama's grumbling, and as he put the photo back, his fingers brushed something smooth with a thread-like texture. He carefully pulled it out, blinking owlishly at the content. Suddenly, Itachi's disconcerted face made a lot of sense. His friend had just had his first taste of culture shock. Well, he'd made it up to Itachi somehow. His eyes were drawn to the Tengu Geta Shisui had given him, and in spite of his maturity, Naruto still had the curiosity of an 8-year-old boy. And since nobody was looking, Kurama aside of course, he put the Geta on. Standing at his full height, he began walking around in his living room, staggering a bit as he came to a conclusion. Maybe I shouldn't kill Shisui for this joke, in fact. I owe him one, he muttered thoughtfully. He'd have a full day tomorrow to practice wearing these things by himself, because Itachi and Shisui had a family gathering tomorrow if he recalled correctly. Now, if only he could figure out a nice sound-absorbing seal to reduce the clap-clop sound or learn how to walk silently on these geta, they would be perfect. That night, for the first time since Aizen killed his ANBU guards and broke Hinamori's mind, Naruto had a deep and dreamless sleep.